This is Allison Hunt, and I'm going to read you my second book of the HAVENBELL trilogy, The Scepter of ZANE, written by Allison Hunt, copyright 2011, redrafted 2021. This is my favorite of all my books, so I hope you enjoy it. I really like the turn that the story takes. We're going to go into the future about 17 to 18 years from the last. Part 1, The Book of Secrets. Chapter 1, The Tri-Breed. On the horizon met two familiar lovers. The burning crimson orb merged once again with its emotional darling, the sea, and she reflected his image upon her waves. This was always the sight for these eternal beloveds to meet at the twilight of each day. Nothing could ever keep them apart, the sun and the sea. No matter what happened, and much can in one day, they always met again before the moon brought the stars upon the sky. On the sand sat a lone man admiring the sun as it disappeared into the sea. The waves crashed gently upon the shore. He rose, and his horse-like body was only a silhouette in the last light of the horizon. He took one last look as the light disappeared and began to turn away. He hit his foot upon something, and it shoved its way out of the sand. He picked it up and brushed the sand from the cover. Upon its cover was a sliver moon hanging upside down. Now this man, unlike most, had studied very carefully the life forms and cultures of other races in HAVENBELL. He was a hermit in a sense and never traveled, thus his need to learn and travel through books was obsessive. He opened the frail book, which was torn and battered. He gasped when he saw its written language. This mystery or message was and would always be kept from him, for he noticed right away what the language was, but there were no books upon the ancient language in which to study. Very few alive even had knowledge of it, and to those that could read it, he doubted heavily would ever share it with him. Even with his misfortune, he could still take it to the royals, and perhaps he would get to take it to the council. Yes, he would be known for something, influence the outside world. If he made a fuss about it, he could even draw much more attention. Of course, he would eventually give them the book, but why hand it over so easily if he could prolong his adventure? "Look at that!" a small Adrella boy cried. The second boy looked up in amazement as an Adrella with the wings of a manta ray glided over them, casting a quick shadow upon their faces. The ray did not much notice them at all. The guards to the Coral Kingdom moved to the side, and the great gate opened. Upon the throne sat the king of the Adrella. He noticed the girl had brought him something this time. She detached what was strapped to her as the king came closer. She handed it to him. She was not only special because of her wings, but because she was also an elf and a Josepharian. She was a princess of 3 races, a very special one indeed. "Uncle," she pressed her forehead to his. "Cheyenne, a pleasure to see you. A gift?" "A gift." He opened the case to find 2 silver battle blades. They shone like the reflection of the moon. King Zed was impressed by their fit and weight. They had beautiful braided designs, and each had 7 rare jewels of deep color. He rose, and the Adrella around him gave him space. He threw the blades up, they did a small loop, and flew back into his hands. He threw them higher and faster until they almost touched the top of the coral dome. The faster he threw, the quicker they came back. He tried another technique, throwing them underhanded 10 feet in front of him. Then he threw them sideways from his left to his right side, which upon doing so to an enemy would inflict many slices at one time. The crowd cheered at his impressive display. "Thank you. They make me want to fight." "It's magical, from the fairies and elves. It will not rust or decay. Now you're the most dangerous Adrella in the sea." "Now, huh?" She laughed. He put them back in the case. He persuaded her to come with him to get some food, but really he wished to speak to her alone. "How are the kingdoms treating you as of late?" "I like it here, but people are shy of me. Up there I kind of got this ear thing. In Faithia I kind of got a wing thing, which makes me quite the handy elf, except I have a hard time jumping through trees like they do. I guess my favorite place was Elkstaff. I haven't been there in a long while. No one acted strange to me. I felt comfortable." "I know feathers can be rude. They are the most arrogant of all races. No offense. None taken. How's your mother? All right, I guess. She's quiet lately. Doesn't seem she's making it to the meetings much. What do you know about the meetings? Enough. Why is it I'm not allowed to know anymore, Zede? Why am I not allowed to be where I could do the most good? Why won't they teach me their powers? I'm not the one you should be asking. But surely you know the reason. Hold your tongue. Cheyenne gave up, stopped, and looked at the floor. She continued. Mother has been painting a lot lately. Her room is almost full of them. Father says he's going to need another room to hold them all. Well worth it, I bet. Do you like them? Well, they seem okay, I guess. Come to think of it, I can't really remember them at all. I don't like that room. Why not? The painting. You just said you couldn't recall them. All except one I remember. What is it a painting of? The owl. A handsome boy of 19 summers sat inside the lower deck of his vessel. The name of his ship was Polar Mist. He was the captain of the small ship, and even though he was young to have such responsibility, most of his crew was older than he, but they didn't mind. He deserved his respect and honor. Captain Zachary Winsfeld was a wizard, and everybody knew it. He was very powerful, but he was also humble and quiet. Some would even say he was a bit shy. He'd been on the seas of HAVENBELL for 3 summers now. He patrolled the waters to keep the peace between lands, to send any information needed to the council. He could sense things unknown to most. He could dream things no one could, and with his window to the unseen, he could sense danger and darkness. He could feel anger that had the potential. To start wars. If another land was going to ambush another, they hoped Zach would pick up on it. He once saw the water warrior, but that wasn't something he wanted to tell people. Not many had seen one. Only a few elders claimed to have seen them in the land of all creatures, back when the Child of Harmony had risen, and even now she too was becoming a myth. He had seen them both, and once he saw the tri-breed. Only once in Elkstaff, but he doubted she remembered him. He took one more look at his maps, charts, and books. He scooped them into his locker by his desk. As he put the last one in, he stalled and ran his fingers over the raised sliver moon. Yes, this book had called him. This book had called him here. Just as soon as the centaur kicked it with his hoof, he was headed to Claran. The one who found it turned out to be quite stubborn, but with one yank of his powers, Zach pulled the book away from the centaur and slid it into his hands. With Zach being a Josepharian, the getaway was quite easy as the crazy man screamed his crazy things. Yes, the book called him. It was written in the ancient language, and we couldn't have things like that being passed around. He shut the locker and locked it. He put the chain with the key on it around his neck and placed it underneath his shirt. He could spot the signal at the Bay of Zane on Fairy Island. He sighed deeply and ran his hands over his face. This would not be easy. Cheyenne lay asleep in her bedroom palace of Josephara. Though as fancy as her room was, it always felt cold and uncomfortable here more than anywhere else. She felt awkward at the prejudice of the feathers. They were not allowed to treat her poorly, but they sneered behind her back. Sometimes she could feel their thoughts. Though she slept well, she'd been having a reoccurring dream in which she flew to a land far away, somewhere she had never seen before. There was a beach and 2 jagged cliffs. Between these, she followed a trail laden with trees. She came upon a crossroads in the forest where the 2 paths became present. She was drawn to and followed the right of the fork. She came to a block in the path with 3 large fallen trees. A couple jumps and some gliding took her over these. After a while of walking in these dark woods, the forest started to recede and she came upon a clearing. There was a wide circle of stones in the clearing. When she came into the middle of it, she noticed she was on a cliff. She overlooked a beautiful ocean and a sky full of uncountable stars. The moon was orange and hung low in a crescent. She looked over the top of the cliff and then woke up. She forgot the dream when she woke because she had packed her bags the night before, and they were the first things she saw. She jumped out of bed with a smile and put on her newly made dress. She put a dash of makeup on and brushed her long blonde hair, a trait of her father's. After dressing, she put a long white silky cape over it. It was adorned with the golden symbol of the Josepharians. She moved down the hallway fast, ignoring everyone that saw her. She knocked on her mother's door, no answer. She rapped again with impatience. "Come in." Trillium barely blinked when her daughter came in. "Mother, look." Cheyenne opened the robe she was hiding in. "Just a minute," Trillium sputtered while finishing her brushstroke. "Isn't it great?" "Yes," she answered without looking at the dress. "Just look, please." Reluctantly, she took 3 tiny steps away from her painting. Cheyenne could see the owl painting out of the corner of her eye, but refused to look at it. Trillium sighed and put her paintbrush down. Cheyenne wore a long, decorated elven dress. It was made from dark green velvet and golden ropes. "Wow, Cheyenne, that's a beautiful dress. Where did that come from? They don't make those kind of clothes up here." "Father had it made and sent from Fathia for my visit. He knows I like elven things." "Have fun and give my love to her." "I will." Cheyenne kissed her cheek and put her robe back on. Trillium picked up the paintbrush, and Cheyenne left in a flash, prancing down the hallway, although there was no need to hurry. She found Farisef in the dining room and sat to eat with him. "Is Mother okay?" "Yeah, why do you ask?" "She's really involved with those lately. Is she eating?" "Yes, a little." "She seems to be happy, so let her be." "What's your favorite painting?" "I'm not sure." "Do you remember any of them?" "Yes, of course." "Which ones?" "The owl." Cheyenne, along with a group of 10 Josepharians, set out to Fathia. It felt good to get out of the stuffy kingdom up above and go to her other homeland, where they treated her kindly. Her wings fascinated most elves, but they didn't make her feel like a spectacle. When she landed, she took off her robe and pulled 4 golden pins from her pack. She used them to pull her long hair up, exposing her long pointed ears. She approached Serenity City. The land was green, lush, and fresh. She just stood there breathing in the sweetness, the moisture, and the earth that wasn't up above. A troop of elven guards escorted them down the cobblestone road, and many elves came out to wave, cheer, and welcome her. She entered the palace and kissed the cheek of the statue that was her late great-grandmother, Serenity. The feathers that were with her, although reserved, were very excited to go into another land. They did not get to leave often, for the feathers stuck together pretty tight. They were just as refreshed by the forest, and they could smell food in which they could not recognize. When Queen Jasha met them, she greeted them and gave them directions on where to go to eat, and dismissed them. They were treated very special by the elves that loaded them with plates of food they had never tried before. Down here they were special. Up there they were common. They were soldiers of a sort, but the youngest and lowest of rank. They were just beginning to train, but it would be a few more summers before they would even be acknowledged as part of the army. They knew they were lucky to come on this journey, for the higher-ups must have had some heavier business. To them, what could be heavier than watching the only tri-breed? None of them were very experienced, and to put her in their hands could be risky if there were an attack. Nonetheless, this was not an adventure they would soon forget, and they would tell the feathers of this trip to Fathia for many summers to come. Cheyenne smiled as her grandmother Jasha approached. They embraced and turned around to the north side corridor. "How are you, lovely?" "All right, I've missed you." "I've missed you more." They had a large celebration and feast that night. She danced with 2 elven boys and 2 Josepharians. She was almost 17 summers now, and she hadn't dated at all because of what her friend called the 3-sided coin. Although she was special, she was maybe too special. Add a little royalty, and it turns out to be too much sometimes. That night she fell asleep happy and had the same dream as before. This time she came to the crossroads in the woods. A voice called to her, "Meet me." When she walked into the circle of stones, a voice called out once more, "Meet me." In the morning she had tea with breakfast and spoke a bit about Trillium's painting. It's been a long time." "Since what?" "Since I've seen the owl." "You've seen the painting, then?" "No, the owl was really a man, you see. You recall the name Duran?" "Vaguely." "He was a sorcerer. Well, an Ortson. His brother turned him into an owl. When the council and your mother took on the Dark Ones, he showed up and fought on our side against his brother, who was more dangerous than the Dark Wizards." "Yeah, I kind of remember that. I thought Jack Falconberry won that war." "He did. Duran disappeared a long time ago. Last I heard, he returned to Ortso to rule there. Oh, you've been wanting to travel? Yeah, who doesn't? I mean, you really want to travel to lands far away? I wish I could. You can better than anyone else. I'm a little overprotected, don't you think? Yes, a little, but I think with enough protection your parents will let you go. Really? Yes. I have also been wanting to show you something special. Follow me. Jasha led her into a forest. As they got deeper within it, it opened up into a beautiful garden. Beyond the lush, hidden garden was a courtyard. This is beautiful. Thank you. It's my favorite place other than Roaring Falls. I will have to take you there one day. I didn't just come here to show you the garden. No. I brought you here because I think it's about time that I taught you how to shoot. When Cheyenne returned to Josephera, she was a little bummed out. She had had a lot of fun in Fadia, and up here it seemed, well, dry. She had a special connection with her grandmother and was much better received in Fadia this time. When she entered her room, she almost fainted. There in her room was a painting. It was of the clearing from her dream. High on the cliff was a starry sky and a crescent moon. It looked identical to her dream. That night, once asleep, she had the same dream. Meet me, the voice beckoned. Where? She asked back. Zach waited for his father to come home. He heard the door open and rushed down to greet him. When Neja saw his son, he gave him a strong embrace. How are things on the sea? Calm. How long will you be staying, son? About a month. Are you hungry? Sure. Halfway through dinner, Zach began to ask questions. Father, who is Duran Alasius? He was a friend of the Child of Harmony. They both went together on a quest to unite HAVENBELL. Treaties, yes. I know who he is, but what happened to him? He returned to Ortso many summers ago to take his throne. He doesn't associate with the council anymore. Why? Just curious. I had a dream. Anything we should take notice of? No, all I heard was his name. Mind if I take a walk? Go ahead. Nice night. Zach went outside and began to wander out back. He was sweating bullets. Never had he deceived or lied to his father in this magnitude. It wiped him out. His father's mind was strong. It was near impossible to keep a small white lie blocked from his knowing. This wasn't a small white lie at all. This was massive. He cooled down a bit and was grateful for the 4 stones he had placed in the corners of his room. It could block his father out of his thoughts and dreams. Outside he was pretty safe, but being in his presence would be mind-bending, and he would have to keep it up. He reached his favorite spot. It had always been since he was a child. He sat down and meditated. He did this quite often. For weeks he'd been meditating on his vessel. He imagined this spot every time and called out to the girl with the blonde hair. Meet me, he beckoned. After a few minutes, he heard a voice. Where? The voice called back. Cheyenne woke up the next morning. The sun shone through the window onto the painting of the circle of stones. She looked at it as she dressed into a white gown, this one of Josepherian style. She pinned up her hair and pranced through the hallway. Many bowed and she greeted them with a smile. She opened the door to where her mother painted and came right in. Trillium was standing by her easel with a palette in one hand and a paintbrush in the other. She wore a long golden dress with the J symbol upon it. Her long curly hair hung to her waist. Cheyenne's fear was broken by her focus. This time she looked around at all of the paintings. They were quite beautiful. There was one of her mother, a waterfall, her 2 Draken friends, and her father and mother getting married. There was also one with dark clouds, and one of a house by some cliffs with the same crescent moon. She was now working on another, but it was only half finished. You want to go to Fairy Island, Trillium said flatly. It wasn't a question. How? She began, but she remembered she didn't exactly come from a normal family. Trillium turned to her daughter. She was very proud that she had turned out so loving. She often felt sympathy for her because of the feathers. She knew better than anyone else how they could be. Maybe next time it would be a good thing if they visited Fadia together. I'm all right with it if the fairies are. Don't you dare pick a single flower or they shall hang you high. If you're going to go anywhere, I prefer it be Fairy Island. It is the safest. They still have a shield. I will tell them that you are coming. You still have to ask your father. He has the final say-so. You think he'll let me if I take some guards? Yes, at least until the fairies take you in. You should ask him instead of me. I will. You've been rather distant lately. Trillium looked at her, a little offended. I didn't mean it like that. They are beautiful. Are you sure you don't want to come with me? Not this time, thank you, though. All right, I love you. She gave her mother a hug and a kiss. Then Trillium turned back to the painting and tapped her brush on her chin. Cheyenne put her arm around Trillium's shoulder and gazed at the painting. On the top of it was nothing but the ocean's horizon. On the bottom was a small rectangle inside of a large rectangle. I have a hard time seeing the rest. I see it, Cheyenne pointed. There's a wheel over here and a compass over here. To the right are some star charts. I see it now. How did you do that? I don't know. Cheyenne flew next to Shar, Bo, and Orin. They were part of Father's army. They were both warriors, very high in command and very trusted by her father. They were older, serious, and intimidating. Orin was younger and a bit of a joker. How did you ever get the king to let you go away like this? He asked. It wasn't easy, trust me. I feel like a baby with you guys around. Well, thanks. I've never been anywhere before. These guys have, but not me. This is awesome. You're welcome. So, what's it like to be so different? Orin asked. Orin, Shar warned. It's okay. It's actually much nicer to have someone be curious and ask me than talk behind my back. It's not always fun up there. People don't know what to do when I'm around. They don't know how to act or what to say, and it's uncomfortable for them and me. I never thought about it like that. I've always been kind of jealous. Who isn't? You get to go everywhere. Then there's your family. Yeah, my heritage is enough trouble. Being a tri-breed, I'm one heck of a sideshow. Orin shut his trap, feeling a bit ashamed. That will be 10 silvers, by the way. What for? Orin asked. To see the best show in town. There was much excitement in Fairy Island, for they were to have a special visitor. Word had been spread and a welcome party had been arranged. Syrah, the new queen of the fairies, hadn't seen this much excitement since the palace was rebuilt. There was a party planned for the first night of her arrival. Here they come, your highness. All shields dropped. There was a whooshing sound heard throughout the land. Then after a moment's pause, a humming sound continued. Shields enforced. Syrah flew to the top of her tower. Down below, many fairies were already gathered in large numbers. Look, Mama, feathers, a little girl pointed. 4 strangers landed and approached the fairies' palace. Syrah and her guards met them on land. The queen came closer and the outlanders bowed to her. They bowed back. Welcome, Josepharians. We have been expecting you. It's so good to have visitors. It's been such a long time. You must be Cheyenne. Yes, Queen Syrah. Your friends are welcome to join our festivities. Thank you. Your flower fields are breathtaking, much more beautiful than was described to me. They ate wonderful foods and exotic fruits. They danced to beautiful music and had a most enjoyable time. They looked in pleasure as the young fairies fluttered around them, poking at their large, strange wings. The tables and banners were being taken down as the sun began to set. Many fairies were departing. Cheyenne said farewell to her guardsmen and gave Orin a hug. His eyes were bright as lanterns. The shield was briefly dropped, and the feathers returned home for a few days. Syrah beckoned the princess. I would like you to meet a special friend of mine. A horse with a large fairy upon it galloped towards them. The fairy had tan skin and long dreadlocks. Cheyenne smiled. This is Garrett. He will be watching over you. Syrah really wanted the tri-breed to stay with her. Someone had just returned home, and Syrah did not want the two to meet. Let her stay with me, Garrett, she begged the other large fairy, using only her thoughts. Nay, it will be fine, Garrett resisted. Hello, Cheyenne. You look like Trillium except for the golden hair. You know her? Yes, we are friends of the past. I would like you to stay with him. He is well trusted. You can stay the night in the palace if you prefer. Sure, I'll go with him. I'll see you again, won't I? Of course you will. Then I will see you later. Good night. Garrett turned to her. You must be tired. Ride with me. They headed north, and after a while she began to doze off. Before her dreams could purely form, she woke up again. When she looked around, they were in a thick forest, following a single trail. Then it split off into a fork. In her moment of realization, her heart started pounding and she jolted upward. "You all right?" Garrett asked. "Aren't we supposed to go right?" "No, we're almost there." As Garrett's horse followed the left trail, Cheyenne looked behind her until she could no longer see the crossroads. She woke up not long after lying down. She slept downstairs on a spare bed while Garrett slept in a room upstairs above her. She quietly slipped out of bed and tiptoed across the wooden floor. She was still in her nightclothes, so she grabbed a thick cloak and wrapped it around her. She slipped on her sandals, picked up her bow and arrows, and silent as an elf, she slipped out of the door. She ran back to the crossroads and wandered down the other path. As she started to come out of the forest canopy, she could see a clearing. Inside was a circle of stones. There was something there she hadn't expected. A shadowed figure stood inside the circle and turned to face her. "Are you the owl?" "Nay, I bring the owl." "Are you Cheyenne?" "You bring the owl? Who are you?" She aimed her new bow at him, and he put his hands in the air. "I'm the one that's been calling you. You heard me." "Yes, I heard you. Why did you bring me here? What do you want?" "I've been needing to see you. I won't hurt you. You're making me nervous. I won't hurt you." She lowered her bow suspiciously. "Who are you, then?" "My name is Zach. I need to talk to you." He stepped into the moonlight. She saw a handsome man close to her age. He had brown wavy hair that hung to his shoulders. He had fair skin and freckles on his nose. Zach's eyes were a beautiful blue. She was locked in his eyes. "I'm risking so much to meet you here." "I am as well. I'll get in much trouble for leaving my guardian like this." "I'm sorry, but it's important." He guided her to sit with him in the circle. A large crescent moon hung low above the ocean. Its light was reflected on the dark water. The numerous stars speckled upon the night sky. "I know who you are, Cheyenne. I saw you at the festival, and I knew of you for many summers." "Why didn't you?" "I couldn't. My father, he can read my mind." Cheyenne laughed. "My mother can." "I had to wait. See, I've been trying to block him so hard, and it isn't easy. He's a wizard." "Is that why you were able to call me?" "Yes. I have it too, and so do you. You're the first special person I've met outside my family. It's comforting. Try telling me more about you." "Sure." Held her hand and pushed thoughts through her. "You're a sailor, a peacekeeper." He let go of her hand. She strained her face, but still tried to pick him up. "It's harder without your hand." "I know." Cheyenne stalled and sighed. "Mist. Polar mist is your ship?" "Yes, very good. Now you try to send one to me." "Okay, you love music. You don't care for Josephera much. What's a three-sided coin?" Cheyenne laughed. "That's me, the tri-breed." "Oh." Zach could tell that she was good with her thoughts, though not as sharp as he had expected coming from the progeny of the Child of Harmony. It didn't mean she didn't have more potential. To Zach's pleasure, she was horrible at controlling her emotions. He could feel them all intensely and wondered if he was blushing. "I'm very uncertain, Princess, that this is the right thing to do. You see, I found something very special, and I want to share it with you. I should do the right thing and turn it into the council and pretend I never found it. That's why I called you. I don't know if showing you is really a good idea." "What is it? Please tell me." Zach reached into his bag and pulled out an old book. He handed it to her, and she looked it over. On the cover of the book was a crescent moon. She opened the book and was saddened that it was full of symbols she didn't recognize. "I don't get it. I don't understand." "This is a very special book." "I can't read it." "I can, and I have." "What could be so special about it?" "You know how HAVENBELL was saved before you were born?" "Yeah, so?" "Do you know what happened to your mother afterward?" "She married my father." "No, before that." "She met the spirit warriors. Why?" "This is a book about her quest, how she helped HAVENBELL." "Are you going to read it to me?" "I don't know yet." "Please?" "Why do you suppose she never talks about it? Did she ever tell you much?" "Not really. Read it to me." "Cheyenne, this is the whole story. She wrote this. She has reasons for keeping it private." "How bad can it be?" "This is no joke. This is her business, not our business. This is her story to tell, understand?" "I guess." "We would be intruding upon her life in ways that we shouldn't. This could cause us much sorrow and pain to others and ourselves. I should turn it into the council. We shouldn't go digging at people's past. It's wrong. It's okay. I won't tell anyone about it. I swear, Zach. No one. Are you willing to betray your mother by learning her secrets? You called me. I'm already here.